Hey, I'm here with my friend Biaka, and we've known each other for a few years now. During COVID, we actually got even closer, talking about creativity, talking about the changes in both of our worlds. For you, new fatherhood, and exciting things, big work changes. His company, he's the owner of Biaka Works out of Kansas City. It's a great. It's a great opportunity talking with you where we can kind of just talk about creativity and the things that are important to us, especially as I'm leading into HAUNTHOLOGY. You were the first person that I thought of that I wanted to talk to, just because every single time that we talk about making things about life and fatherhood and all those things, we have a conversation and I always feel fantastic as we do it. So I kind of want to hop on and talk about this and share this with everybody.
Yeah, I am extremely excited to be able to sit here and talk to you about things. That we are both creatives, we're both fathers, and that what I do is a little more different, especially owning like a design agency. And with what you do, like I've always been enamored, fascinated, loved growing up reading comic books, DC, Marvel. And of course, like during COVID, we were talking about this HAUNTHOLOGY project that you've got going on. So, like from our conversations, a lot of the main questions I've always had, I wanted to ask you, and I think it also envelops kind of just your process as a creative, as a father who is working professionally as a comic book artist. Like you're starting HAUNTHOLOGY, you've always worked on other people's books from DC, Marvel. I really liked your series of drawing with Catwoman and even Constantine. And then you've worked on like collaborative projects, like The Realm or The Beauty and even The Mother. So what is HAUNTHOLOGY? Why is this so much more personal to you? Because us creatives are always working for other people in some way. Mm-hmm. Why is this the personal one?
I write things that often other people draw. Mm-hmm. I draw things that other people write, and that's been a big part of my career. It isn't very often that I can make the stars align and write and draw my own thing. Most of the time in comic books, your schedule sort of fills out for a year at a time. Sometimes I'll be locked in for 2 years on a project that wow. It's a long form thing.
Especially obscurity.
Yeah, no, it is. It's that incredibly secure industry that also can shift on a dime sometimes.
Wow. Okay.
I think we all learned the term pivot pretty hard during COVID, and that sort of is one of the things that I think we were prepared for in comics, mm-hmm. because we are constantly pivoting. But I've made things for other people for a long time and with other people, and I've been incredibly fortunate in my career. It's been an opportunity for me to work with great people that care about the medium, that want to do fantastic things, and I love that. But I've always had this thing where I wanted things that were just me, that were just my voice, and it's hard to do. It's hard to plan out, and it's hard to allow time for. The change all there for all of us, for right. you, for me, was COVID.
Yep.
I went from having an incredibly overfull schedule to having almost nothing on my plate.
So it was just all stripped away during.
Oh yeah. They in comics we called it pencils down. It was literally we were. No one knew what the state of the industry was going to be. Shops. The distribution channel shut down for quite a while. Shops were shutting down. We couldn't ask shops to continue to shell out money when no one was able to go into the shops, right. and it was a thing that we had to do because it was about survival. But the way that affected creatives was a lot of times we had our year's worth of stuff lined up, and suddenly we were told we got to hit the pause button for 4 months, 6 months, 8 months at a time. And we preparing things like that, knowing what your year is like.
Right.
Suddenly, if you lose that plan, you have to rearrange
quite a bit.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a year.
a year's worth of your
Yeah.
life. It's, it's not like, I mean, in some cases I think people actually did, but it's not like I'm going to go and have a contract to do 5 issues or 6 issues or 10 issues, and then suddenly, get something on the quick. Most of the time it's us rearranging everything. It's really changing the way we view the whole thing. And for me personally, I felt so lost in that moment. I mean,
Okay.
and we all did. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah.
But had I known, had any of us known, we could have made plans, but we didn't.
Nobody could have imagined like what 2020 was going to be like. It was insane.
I mean, and going in and doing that, I knew that I needed to make something. The purity of just creating something, anything in that moment. And for me, I have such a love for short stories. I love short fiction. I love, in prose, you get people like, everybody from Laird Barron and Nathan Ballingrud and Joe Hill, Stephen King. They tell these wonderful short stories. And in prose, you get that. You get short stories over and over again. In comics, we have short story collections, but not usually like one thing from one person. And so I just told one short story, and that became another and another and another, and built into this whole thing.
So it sounds like this many years of working with other people, or kind of like not either doing one part, the writing part or the drawing part. 2020 was kind of a medium or kind of an ignition in a way for you to kind of realign or have the stars align pretty much for you to be able to tell stories that were inspiring to you. Because I know that horror has a big element in your life. It has a big element in my life.
Right.
In Hauntology, I mean, my favorite part is seeing your face on the cover.
Right.
It's your face.
Right.
Right. Not as handsome or anything like that, but probably even having your name on there and then telling these stories. So pretty much Hauntology came out of this necessity to do something, to create something, to survive, but also at the same time to kind of draw out exactly what it is, the stories that you've always wanted to tell. And they just kind of built upon each other.
It was therapy for me. I mean, it truly was. And I think this thing, projects are always personal.
Right. You
always have something that you want to and need to talk about. You talk about life, you talk about these things. That is what, that is the reality of storytelling. With Hauntology, I think the difference was, it was me dealing with over a year, the year of confusion, of loss, of loneliness, of pain, isolation. And I realized that I was telling my story during this, but it's through this lens, right? So, they're all stories about aliens or monsters or various things. And they're about COVID, but there's no masks or, there's the reality of it. But like, it was an opportunity for me to use horror very much through my voice, very much through my lens. And the more I realized that I was both telling stories that I enjoyed the way I wanted to tell them, but they were also deeply, deeply personal. I mean, there's literally there's stories that I am either very much a character in, or they're even quite autobiographical.
Right.
And there's even one that's the Christmas special that's just goofy. That's just I found how personal this was and how much this was about me, and I wanted to link it all together in a way. And I think that the second that I started thinking about the icon, on the cover, that tentacled version of me, which I think it on first glance it looks kind of grimdark. You're like, oh, that's a thing, and then I think that you look at it more and you're like, that's goofy. And that's exactly the more you look at it, the more fun it gets. At first, you're like,
oh, it's skull, tentacles, wings, and the more you look at it, he's like, that is Jeremy.
Yeah.
And I think what I like about it is it encompasses the scary, the horror nature of it, but also the goofy, and also just who it is that you are.
Right.
And it sounds like pretty much that not only was it things aligning for you to get to do something different, where you get to be the writer and the artist, and primarily the major creator of all of this, but it was also a way to deal with the very scary, terrifying situation as it is. And kind of leading to my next question, like, you are a father, husband, and father of 2 boys. Like, for yourself, what do you want Hauntology to kind of say to your kids about in terms of like your legacy or what you do? Like, how do you feel it differs from showing them other things you've done and showing them this book now?
They've been so close. I mean, they've always been around for me working in comics, but they've been right here in my studio. I work a lot, and I've always been there for them, and we've had this relationship where they can, any time of the day or night, come out and ask me, hey, I need help with this or whatever it is. But during COVID, they've been here. It's been us. It's just been us. 24/7, right? Like, there is a thing where you realize that your partner and your kids are the only people that you've seen for months, really, and they were sitting out here on this couch playing video games and watching movies and having conversations, and they saw Hauntology. They witnessed the birth of this project. We talked about this project. They appear in the project in some of the more personal stories.
They're layered into this project.
They're in the very essence of this thing. And one of the things, beyond just the cool aspect of just having it be so connected, I was able to talk about some of these hard things, like being able to talk with your kids about. I know your kids are younger, but the boys are almost 12 and 16. So it's like this is a very important part in their lives, and a weird part that they've kind of missed out on in the world. But we were able to connect and talk about everything from the hard conversations about the way we treat one another, the way that the world otherism that exists in the world, the things that we've done respective of gender and preference and race and all of these things. We were able to talk about that, and I think that those little things, showing your children that you can tell stories about those important things, that the things that you need and you feel are very, very real, and that I was feeling the same things that they were. I had that pain and loss. We lost we lost a family member, my grandfather, during this, and we had to deal with that in virtually alone, and the change of friendships and all of these things, people moving away, various things. We did that. I think with this project, they saw it in a more pure light. They saw that you can talk about the things that you need to, and that there are various ways, and that creativity, even spooky stories about monsters, can be healing. And that was really incredibly special to me.
I think that just with you describing the boys being here and you guys going through loss, and you're literally pouring your heart onto paper, and they're here able to discuss that with you. Hauntology suddenly has become more of your family. It's a tribute to the things that your family and you went through, and I think that's very powerful, because we look at horror, we look at monsters, and there's this kind of one-dimensional, just very one-dimensional ways, like that's scary. But to me, Hauntology now is more of a journal, more of the opportunity to look into how you guys as a family were able to work through those things, and during so much multi-dimensional kind of lessons you've learned through, and I think the hardship, the things that they may have missed in COVID in 2020, I think that is nothing compared to the opportunity of seeing their father, a creative, somebody they look up to, is working right here in the workshop, creating something that their family is putting together. That's the way I see it. So as you're building together this thing as a father, you know, for even as the Han clan legacy, you know,
Right.
how, as a creative who puts out comic books, drawings, and you know, you've had years of experience, how does the Hauntology to you seem like as a legacy? Like, how do you want this to affect people? Do you want to just be a fun comic book for people to read, to get to know, to see your perspective? How else do you want it to be kind of a medium to talk about things that you think are important?
I think that with entertainment, we always have to understand that there is the way that you create something and the personal thing that you're telling, and the way that it's received. You know, how many times have you had a movie that you were like, oh, that's crap, and then you have a friend that's like, I don't know, I kind of like this about it. You know, like that's, you know, and I think especially in horror, it's like there's a thing where you might watch a movie and you might be like, that was insane.
Yeah.
The effects were ridiculous. I laughed my entire way through it, and I might be like, I don't know, it kind of made me feel uneasy. And
Right.
You know, like we all deal with things differently. I have a very specific thing with each story that I was wanting to talk about. I understand that along the way, some people are going to read these things and be like, oh, those are monster stories. They're fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, you know, that's a post-apocalyptic thing about a guy that finds a toilet that he can use, you know, like there are, that story, by the way, is basically me talking about the fact that we couldn't get toilet paper for forever. But like,
I can't believe that happened too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the weirdest world, you know, and I think that like if we think about it too much, we either have to cry or laugh our asses.
Real quick, shout out to bidets though.
Yeah, you know, yes. I appreciate that bidet sales went through the roof,
right?
And the United States actually caught on with the rest of the world.
Right.
You know, good for us for finally seeing that. But like, it was an opportunity for me to tell stories in my way, but I understand that people are going to receive them how they want and need to.
Yeah, each person has a different perspective.
And that's beautiful. Yeah. That thing about creativity, we you know, it's like your children, right?
Yeah.
You do your best. You show them that you're like, these are the things that are important to me. These are the things that are important to us. We're going to be good people. We're going to try, you know, and you want them to be better than you were. You want them to learn the things that you didn't learn. And stories are kind of like that too. You want to instill all the things in that story that you feel, you know, are important, the things that you needed to say. And then you have to let it go. And you have to understand that someone is going to interpret it one way and somebody's going to interpret it in another. And I just, you know, I hope it connects in the right way with people. And I think that we've had conversations during our friendship that have been about like, you know, even as you've talked about your journey of finding comic books and finding cartoons and things like that as a kid. We all have things that impact us in different ways, and the idea that I made these things that helped me through a painful time, that saved me effectively. This project really did save me. That it might affect someone and speak to something that they need is an honor, and the idea that my children got to see that this thing created the way that I did and what it speaks to, and they got to see me truly creatively happy in a time where, you know, it could have gone another way.
It could have gone another way,
It could, you know, I could have been just lost and alone. I could have gone into a deeper depression, you know, than I went into. But like, this thing really did save me, and I just love the idea that I can put it out there. It can be pure in its intent, and it can also just be a lot of fun. Yeah.
And that's why I think I appreciate you answering my questions about, you know, Hauntology, because at its very core, I am excited for the stories. I love anthology. I love horror stories. I love your artwork, of course, but the ability for it to honestly be an inspiration to anybody. Say like, you know, I went through a hard time, and what I had to do was I had to build my own kind of like my own life raft, you know, to put my family onto. And Hauntology is that, you know, and I think that is an inspiration and a medium by which anybody can take that narrative and be like, how is it that I can pull together my resources and look at it as an opportunity to try something different, you know? So I'm excited about it. Can't wait for it. Comes out in how many days?
It's is it 3 now? 3 days?
3 days at the time of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. We're gonna jump all over Kickstarter for it. You got great stickers, pins, so many little things coming out for that. Stickers. I mean, yeah, I'm stoked for it. So
thanks, man.
Yeah,
and thanks for doing this. I mean, I you know, anytime that you're in town, you know, I'm always happy to see you. You know, we're gonna have to steal you back at some point to Joplin. But you know, thanks for doing this. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah,
and
absolutely, man.
As always, Biaka, I appreciate you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. All right.
Right. Okay. I'm always like, how am I gonna? How do you plop down comfortably on a couch and look at, especially as I'm rocking my ever growing dad bod, you know.
I think the dad bod requires a grunt as you sit down and then a body readjustment.
I also like the getting up and it's like.
Yeah. If you're
one.
not making that noise, you're not truly developing your dad bod.
Oh yeah.
If we were chiseled before when we were younger, we are more like dough.
Right.
And it has to be patted down into its medium.
into our true forms.
Into our true forms, yeah, exactly.
All right, you ready to do this?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay.